So while breastfeeding, there is an increased need for certain nutrients in our diet. So the ones I'm going to talk about today are calcium, vitamin D, vitamin A, folate, zinc, choline, iodine, vitamin B12, and iron. The first nutrient I'm going to talk about today is calcium. Calcium is a mineral that makes up the bones and teeth within our body. It also plays a role in blood vessel contraction and dilation, muscle function, blood clotting, hormone secretion, and nerve transmissions. So dairy products are the main source of calcium in our diet. And dairy is an excellent source of calcium in the diet and is often fortified with vitamin D. Although the recommended amount of calcium required each day does not change while breastfeeding, it is important to get adequate dairy intake and to add sources of calcium into your daily lives. So while dairy is the main source of calcium in the diet, there are options for those who do not drink dairy, either due to intolerance or choice. So varying amounts of calcium are found in salmon and sardines canned in their own bones, kale, spinach, broccoli, fortified juices, and grains. So when I say fortified, as in the fortified juices, what I mean is maybe if we're talking about orange juice, the orange juice would not have calcium naturally in it. So the companies will add calcium into it or fortify that juice product with calcium. And there are products in the grocery store that are fortified with calcium and other nutrients. So some commonly fortified products are almond milk, oat milk, coconut milk, juices such as orange juice, soy milk, or tofu. So when purchasing these products, it is important to check the label to ensure these products do have calcium added to them. All right, so I want you to close your eyes, maybe think of a time that you were outside and just enjoying the sun during the day, giving you warmth and heat to make you feel better. While you're outside and the sun's soaking, your body is actually turning that sunlight into vitamin D for your body to use. And I think that this is a very cool nutrient in our diet just because of the way it works in our body and how our body can make it from sunlight. So vitamin D is an important nutrient for people at all stages of life, and vitamin D assists in the absorption of calcium. It also regulates calcium and phosphate levels in our bloodstream. It plays a role in bone mineralization by adding calcium to our bones to maintain healthy bones. And what's interesting is the largest source of vitamin D is direct sunlight. So people are typically able to get all the vitamin D their body needs through sunlight. Vitamin D can be made by our body in just 5 to 30 minutes in the sun with our arms, hands, and legs exposed without sunblock can provide our body with all the vitamin D that it needs. So for those that do not get out in the sunlight very much, or those that use sunblock when they go outside, and during the winter when people tend to bundle up, it is important to ensure you're also getting adequate vitamin D through your diet. So some of the best sources of vitamin D in our diet are fortified dairy, fatty fish, and fortified cereals. So dairy products such as milk and soy milk are often fortified with vitamin D because vitamin D helps with the absorption of calcium in our body. While breastfeeding, the needs for vitamin A are almost double the need of non-breastfeeding females. So vitamin A plays a role in immune function, reproduction, growth and development, and cellular communication. Vitamin A deficiency is not as common in the United States as low-income countries, but it is still important to get this nutrient through a variety of sources in the diet. So sources of vitamin A include dairy products, certain fish such as salmon, liver, leafy greens such as kale and spinach, orange and yellow vegetables, fruits, and some fruits are higher in vitamin A than others such as cantaloupe, apricots, and mangoes, and also fortified foods such as cereal and golden rice. So vitamin A is more readily absorbed in our bodies when it comes from animal sources, but plant sources should not be ignored in the diet. Another important nutrient while breastfeeding is folate, and mothers who are breastfeeding continue to have elevated needs for folate even after their baby is born. Folate can often be described as either folate or folic acid, and folate is found naturally in foods, while folic acid is the fortified version that's added to products. Folate has many different roles in our body, including the creation of nucleic acid and the methylation of DNA to ensure proper cell division. So sources of folate include dark green vegetables, nuts, peas, lentils, beans, animal products such as eggs and dairy, meat, poultry, and seafood, and fortified grains and fortified cereals. Certain mesa flour products are also enriched with folic acid in our diet. So some of the best sources of folate are spinach, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, and even liver. Breastfeeding can lead to an increased need for zinc in the diet. Zinc plays a role in the body's metabolism, the body's immune system, wound healing, DNA synthesis, and supports normal cell growth at different stages of life. So zinc can be found in a variety of foods, but the largest source in the American diet is red meat and poultry, followed by beans, nuts, certain seafood such as crabs and oysters, whole grains, breakfast cereals that have been fortified, and products made with dairy. Choline is important to talk about because choline is one nutrient that women who are breastfeeding are often unable to consume an adequate amount of through their diet alone. So the importance of choline is it plays a role in metabolism, the creation of important pieces of a healthy cell, early brain development, and even signaling between cells. Choline can be found in foods such as animal products like eggs and dairy, meat and poultry, grains, seafood, beans, peas, lentils, and cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli. So the need for iodine rises during pregnancy and breastfeeding, and iodine plays a role in the creation of certain hormones in our body, such as thyroid hormones that are important for a healthy body. So iodine is a nutrient that can be found in iodized salt, seafood, kelp, and certain animal or plant products. Although it is not recommended to start using iodized salt in order to meet this increased need, ensuring that the salt you use is iodized is a good method to ensure you're getting adequate iodine in your diet. So as I said, certain animal products and plant products do contain more iodine in them. Animal products can contain iodine if they're fed sources of iodine in their diet, such as specialized feed. And then plant products can contain iodine if they are planted in soil that contains iodine for them to absorb. The need for vitamin B12 is elevated while breastfeeding and is important for those that are following a strict diet that does not contain animal products. Vitamin B12 is notable because it only comes from limited source in the diet. So animal products such as meat, poultry, eggs, and dairy, fortified cereals, and fortified nutritional yeast. So vitamin B12 plays an important role in the central nervous system, the creation of healthy red blood cells, and DNA synthesis in our body. So the last nutrient I want to talk about is iron. Iron is still an important piece of a healthy diet, but while breastfeeding and before menstruation restarts, iron needs drop even lower than the needs of pre-pregnancy women. So iron is important because it plays a role in the creation of red blood cells in our body. Iron is important for healthy growth, brain development, cellular function, and the creation of hormones in our body. So there are two different sources of iron in our diet. So there's the heme iron, which is found in animal sources such as meat, poultry, and seafood. And this is more readily absorbed by our bodies. And there's also the non-heme iron. So non-heme iron is found in plant sources such as lentils, beans, leafy greens such as spinach, and this is not as readily absorbed by our body. So when focusing on a healthy diet, it is important to make sure you get adequate intake of iron through different sources in the diet. And although non-heme iron is not absorbed as well as heme iron on its own, foods containing high amounts of vitamin C, such as oranges, asparagus, cauliflower, broccoli, and strawberries, assist in the absorption of non-heme iron. So the need for iron supplements after pregnancy should be a decision guided by the doctor and is affected by individuals' current iron stores, their medical history, and their daily eating patterns. So talking about each of these different nutrients that are needed during breastfeeding can sometimes be overwhelming for people. So as I wrapped up this section, I wanted to come back to this idea of the balanced plate. So working to add different sources of each of the different nutrients that we talked about as part of a balanced diet can help make sure that you're getting all the nutrients that you need while breastfeeding. Another important topic for us to talk about is water or fluids needs while breastfeeding. So while breastfeeding, the need for water is increased. A general recommendation for water intake while breastfeeding is 128 ounces or 16 cups of water. So this can be a lot to try to drink throughout the day, but just trying to find ways to drink water throughout the day can help to ensure you're staying hydrated. So building habits such as carrying a water bottle around with you or making sure you have a glass of water with each meal can help work towards reaching this goal. And although water is the most focused on fluid in our diet, other fluids drank throughout the day can also be added to this 128 ounces. That is the goal while breastfeeding. So the last thing I want to talk to you about today is vitamin supplementation during breastfeeding. So it is a standard recommendation for women who are pregnant to take prenatal vitamins. But the question is, when should supplementation be stopped? So what is the current answer to whether or not multivitamins should be taken after giving birth? Maybe. So although nutritional needs continue to be raised during breastfeeding, there is no standardized recommendation in place for supplementation during breastfeeding. For a healthy breastfeeding woman, working with a physician to make a plan and working to balance your diet should be the first step before adding supplements or multivitamins for specific nutrients, unless there is a known need. Supplementation of certain nutrients are needed under some circumstances, such as breastfeeding mothers that are anemic, which means that they have low iron stores in their body. So factors such as health, past medical history, and dietary patterns play a role in the decision for supplementation after pregnancy. So talking to your physician will help create a recommendation specific for you and your health. So today we talked about a healthy balanced diet, calorie needs while breastfeeding, specific micronutrients needed during breastfeeding, and water fluid needs during breastfeeding, as well as supplements during breastfeeding. I hope you were able to take away something from this video. And I know it's a lot to talk about all at once. So what I wanted to talk to you about at the end here is making what's called a SMART goal, which is a specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goal. An example of a SMART goal is working to get 30 minutes of exercise at least 3 times a week for the next 6 months. So as we talked about things today, maybe there's something that stood out to you as something that you want to work on while breastfeeding. So taking one of these ideas and making a SMART goal for it might be helpful while breastfeeding.